For some people, it takes a fatal mistake before they can learn to take responsibility for what they do. We begin in Lafayette, Ohio on January 28, 1992. As Paul Prater left his home that night, he never considered how one decision he would make for himself would affect so many other lives.
In the afternoon, a couple of my friends stopped by. We started drinking and talking over old times. I suppose we stayed around there 2 or 3 hours. I was going to go see a lady friend of mine, and we was going to watch movies and eat pizza that evening. It didn't cross my mind whether I was able to drive or not. I remember going around the peak of the hill. After that, I don't recall anything until waking up in the trauma unit.
Around 8:45 p.m., Coshocton County Sheriff's Deputy John Mosier had just gotten off duty and was on his way home, driving down a lonely stretch of road in rural Ohio.
.40 Coshocton, I just drove upon an accident.
I could say this was a tremendous impact. I felt when I got out of the vehicle there were going to be serious injuries in this accident, if not fatalities.
Sir, can you hear me?
I went up to the large pickup. The driver was laying across the seat, making noise and moving somewhat.
I'll be back with you in just a second.
I went up to the driver of the small pickup.
Can you hear me at all, sir? Can you hear me?
And checked his vital signs for breathing or pulse and could find neither. The passenger was moaning and groaning.
Ma'am, can you hear me? Yeah, I'm a deputy sheriff. I'm here to help you.
I'm not sure that she understood really what was going on. She had serious facial injuries, and her legs were entangled in the metal and plastic of the dash.
40 Coshocton had one.
But she was in tremendous pain, and there was just nothing I could do to give her any assistance.
EMS as quick as possible.
I thought there was a good possibility that she would also die.
Going up right now. We're going to have you out of there. Got this lady's pinned in.
When the first firefighter arrived, the only thing we could try to do was physically force the door open, but it simply wouldn't release. It was just jammed too tight for us to force open.
Turn that front door, Dave. See if you can get in there. Can you get a bite on it, Dave? Can you get...
The impact had compressed the cab of the small truck. No matter how hard we tried, we couldn't get the door to open.
Coshocton County EMS paramedic Randy Curtis was first called over to help the passenger in the small pickup truck.
How you doing? Can you hear me talking to you?
She was gurgling a lot on her own blood. I stabilized her neck and opened her airway so she'd be able to breathe on her own.
Want to take C-spine for me? Sure.
I checked the driver real quick, and he was obviously dead. The steering wheel probably got him in the chest, and he died on impact, more than likely. Neither of them had their seatbelts on. It's always hard to say what if, but chances are seatbelts are going to help you. They're not going to hurt you. So I started trying to work on the patient. I couldn't evaluate from her pelvis down. They were all pinned by the dashboard. She had real severe head injuries, and she had chest injuries. I've had patients before who have ended up dying in hospital or dying there on scene from injuries like this.
Can you hold her okay, Steve?
When the patient's this critical, you just never know.
Okay, take it easy. Take it easy. I know.
It appeared that alcohol had been used by the driver of the large pickup. When I opened the door, beer cans rolled out onto the pavement.
Well, we're going to need a C-spine.
He was conscious. He had some injuries. They didn't appear to be as severe as the people in the other vehicle.
Right there. You got it.
SkyMed helicopter flight nurse Mary Ellen Morton arrived and began treating the female victim.
Once we laid her on the board, it became just massive amounts of blood coming from these facial lacerations and fractures.
Put an endotracheal tube in her. Patricia, take
She was disoriented and would not cooperate, and I suspected immediately she had a major brain injury.
5 verses in.
There was open fractures to both of the long bones in her legs, and in order just to maintain any kind of blood pressure on her, we had to give a lot of fluids.
Clothes cut off, get the mask pants on.
We packaged the patient as quickly as possible because we knew that she'd already been in the vehicle for at least 40 minutes, and I felt her injuries were so serious that she could have died at any moment. Most of the time, when we're involved in accident scenes, drinking and driving has something to do with it, and the effects are devastating.
35-year-old Patricia Johnson was taken to Ohio State University Medical Center, where a trauma team was standing by, including orthopedic surgeon Robert Ostrom.
Anytime someone's killed in a car accident, we're very concerned because that means there's serious injuries to the person that survived that car accident.
Okay, let's see what we got.
Is all the fluid on the DPS?
We got a large open wound down here.
She had 2 massive wounds of her left leg.
Got a fracture on this side too, okay. All right, x-ray. Ready? Good.
Her hip joint on the left side was shattered. She lost 3 inches of bone from her thigh bone on the left, and the thigh bone on the right was also broken.
Okay, let's make arrangements for her to go to the OR. Somebody.
I was upset to see such severe injuries in the patient, then to find out a drunk driver had caused these injuries.
Patricia underwent more than 10 hours of surgery, but remained in a coma. Her husband, David, and her parents, Betty and George Fries, were not able to see her until the next day.
Unbelievable. I wanted to just tell her how much I loved her. Just please wake up.
Well, that was tough seeing her that way. I just figured she was gone. I'd never get her back home.
At the time of the incident, the driver of the other truck's blood alcohol level was 2.5 times the legal limit. He had 4 prior convictions for driving under the influence.
But I learned that a drunk driver had killed David and hurt Patricia. I was very angry. I had so much hate. If I could have got a hold of him, I would have probably tried to kill him.
Patricia did not come out of the coma for a week and spent 2 months in the hospital. For the past 1.5 years, she's been undergoing painful physical therapy.
Come on. It hurts when I go down. I know. Work through it.
I had to get 2 hip replacements. I had 3 inches of bone torn out of my leg. Now I'm kind of short-legged on my left leg. I'm blind in my left eye. And the pain, I'll always have the pain.
2 years after the accident, Patricia is still trying to come to grips with the death of family friend David Marlatt.
It was hard for me to find out David was killed. He was a close friend. He took my dad and me fishing all the time.
David was a heck of a nice guy. He was one of the best guys I ever known. I don't know, it just seems like I just don't care if I fish much anymore since he's been gone.
If I could just take some of their pain and their grief and make it easier, I would do anything possible, but there's much I can do.
Driver Paul Prater is serving a 6.5 to 15-year sentence in prison and has had his license revoked permanently.
It was hard to accept that I took a life. I would go to bed with it. I woke up with it. I wanted to write Patricia a letter to find out how she was getting along in a recovery. And probably a week later, I received a letter from her. She told me what it was like at home, how hard it was living out of a wheelchair. And I knew that I was the cause of this whole thing.
Paul now speaks to high school students in hopes that others can learn from his mistakes.
Believe me, this is not what I had in mind for my future. When I look around, I have to wonder how many of you out there are going to be wearing these because you thought, like I thought, this can't happen to me. I've got control over my life.
Recently, Patricia also began attending to try to share her suffering and her loss.
I can't say enough about the pain that I put these families through. I look at the eyes and hope someone's listening to my story and how easy it is to get in a place like this, how easy it is to destroy lives, destroy families.
Hi.
Hi. All right after all that?
Yeah.
After an event on October 12, 1994, Patricia and Paul spoke privately for the first time.
We wrote quite a few letters. She must be one special person to be able to accept what's happened and still correspond with me, tell me her feelings and want to know my feelings. Something I've been wanting to say for a long time is thank you very much for responding to my first letter. That means a lot to me. I mean, putting myself in your place, I don't know if I could be that strong.
I just want you to know that I forgive you for what you've done. At times I do hate you for what you've done. I wouldn't wish my accident on my worst enemy. And if my story could just help one person not drink and drive, I'd be really thankful.
I took the life of someone and seriously injured someone else. It took a split second to cross that line and change so many lives. My advice to anybody that's drinking and driving, you better beware. The consequences of that could end you in a place like I am.